let us talk about something that I was waiting for a while. We have a new OCG Metagame report. Now, I've seen reports float around like the internet over on Twitter somewhere, but now we have an official Road of the King report compiling tournaments held in Japan, China mainland, Taiwan, and South Korea during 1st to 5th January 2025. So finally, the first metagame report of 2025, and as well, the first one, I think, after the last Forbidden and Limited list update that put X Ryziel to 1 among some other things. So let us go ahead and hop right in, and we see right away significant change up in the metagame for the OCG. We're seeing Orcust at 19.5%. This is due to the new support from the Quarter Century Trinity box, where they get a Link 1 monster among some other pretty good support. We've got Malice still sitting strong at 17.2. This is something that I think was to be expected, because the most recent Forbidden and Limited list for some reason hit Ryziel really hard, but didn't really hit Malice, which I thought was odd, but okay. Malice still sitting at 70.2. Blue Eyes at 16. Ryziel still there at 7. Gem Knight at 5.9. Memento at 5.3. Crystron at 3.6. And Tenpai at 3.6. And the Orcust decks are divided into different categories here. We've got 13 Pure Orcust. We've got Fiendsmith Orcust, Horus Orcust, Horus Fiendsmith Orcust, Azamina Orcust, and Labyrinth Orcust. All right, let's look into Orcust here. This is what the list looks like. So they're playing a lot of the OGs. We played 3 Skeletons now. I heard that Skeleton is a starter now because of the Link 1. Apparently, drawing Skeleton is good now. So they play 3 copies. So you have like 3 copies of Girsu, 3 copies of Harp, 3 copies of Skeleton, 1 Brass Bombard, 1 Nightmare, 1 Crown, I think is this one, and then 1 Wand, alongside some of the like this main deck is almost entirely legal in 2019, minus like obviously some of the generic staples like Prosperity and Crossout and Fuvalos. I'm pretty sure everything else could have theoretically been played in 2019, which is funny. Of course, in the extra deck, you've got a bunch of new tools, but still. Oh yeah, and Girsu wasn't out yet in 2019, but sure. Quarter Century Trinity box gave Orcust a boost with 2 new cards in Galatea I and Enlil Girsu, the Orcust Mech Knight. Galatea I is a new Link 1 that greatly improves the Orcust strategy. Opening with Orcust Harp Horror in hand is now playable, as it can be normal summoned and then used to Link summon Galatea. Right, so you're surpassing the need. Not only is Simple Skeleton a starter now, but also Harp Horror is, which didn't used to be a starter, right? Because 1 Harp Horror, you had no way of just getting it into the graveyard, which is why we resorted back then to playing cards like Armageddon Knight, Dark Refer to get going. You don't need to do that anymore. Galatea, the Orcust Automaton effect, adds a World Legacy monster or Babel from your deck or graveyard to hand. World Crown is an option to add, as it could be special summoned to go into Lib, the World Keyblade Master, which in turn fetches World Legacy Succession. Galatea I's effect banishes another Orcust monster from graveyard as cost to special summon itself from the graveyard. This provides Orcust with an extra body that can be used as link material. A combo opening with Girsu and 1 card is as follows. Normal summon Girsu. Girsu's effect send Harp Horror from deck to graveyard. Girsu's second effect to special summon a token to both players' fields. Okay, so this is a combo that only works with Girsu because you are making use of that token. You link off Girsu into Galatea. Galatea send the card from hand to add World Legacy World Crown. Special World Crown. Galatea and Crown make Orcust the other Galatea. You banish Girsu from the grave to special summon itself. Galatea plus Legacy token makes Lib. Lib sets World Legacy Succession. Galatea and Lib make Apple. You don't use Galatea's effect. Maybe not yet. You make Appaloosa, and this is something that's a huge difference between OCG Orcust and TCG Orcust. We are not gonna have Appaloosa, so I think whatever power level this deck has in the OCG is gonna be something that's like remains to be seen how realistic it is for us to do these crazy combos. because we won't have access to Appaloosa to protect them in any shape or form. This Appo doesn't drop before 5 summons. No, this Appaloosa happens after 5 summons. You can get nibbed. However, you are making Appaloosa before you activate Orcust Harp Horror in the graveyard, right? So like, if you don't have a way to summon a negate for Nibiru, at this point, you're going to continue, and at some point when you're locked into darks, when you've used your Harp Horror, maybe even when you've used your World Legacy Succession, then you're going to get nipped, and then you don't have any sort of resources to keep playing, right? It's a different scenario. Lib shuffles opponent's token away, activate Succession, summon the Galatea, Harp Horror's effect to summon Nightmare from deck, Galatea effect, shuffle Harp Horror back to get Babel, activate Babel, make Long Girsu, Nightmare send Skeleton, Skeleton, special this Dingirsu, attach Nightmare, Long Girsu, Dingirsu, make Enlil Girsu, add Skeleton from Banish to hand. So you end on Appaloosa, Babel, and Enlil Girsu with a Skeleton in hand. Banish, effects, no symbol, Nightmare effect. You have an Appaloosa. You have a Steel with Enlil Girsu. You have World Crown to negate an effect, and you have Dingirsu. Honestly, in a world, this is a pretty strong end board. I can understand why this deck is good in the OCG right now, but still, if you compare this to what's been happening in the TCG, or like what's been happening in 2024, I think it's considering we won't have Appaloosa, this seems fine to me. This looks like a fun concept. You also have Crescendo. In this combo you don't have Crescendo. No, in this combo you won't have Crescendo. The reason for that is that they decided to search Babel with Galatea. You can have Babel and Crescendo in Orcust now, because the Link 1 can search Babel and then Galatea can search the Crescendo. However, then you're not searching the World Crown, and then your combos are going to be less powerful in that regard, right? So like you will have to decide between which thing you're going to search. But how exactly this deck is going to be played when we get to the TCG with it remains to be seen. I do think it looks incredibly cool though. I think in a world without Appaloosa, this deck is not going to be insanely powerful, broken, or anything like that. I'm just happy to see Orcust come back. I thought it was a very fun deck in 2019. And I think the playstyle, this is one of my favorite legacy supports that I've seen in recent years even, because the way this deck plays, it still feels exactly like an Orcust deck. It feels exactly like an Orcust deck because it is essentially the same deck as 2019. There's almost no new cards in the main deck. It still feels like you're playing the exact same decks. It's just slightly better and more appropriate for 2025 Yu-Gi-Oh! This is one of my favorite ways to do legacy support, is if you can make the deck stronger and it still feels like it's exactly the same deck. So I really like this about it. All right. Besides the mono variant, the Fiendsmith variant has also been gaining popularity among Orcust builds. Similar, the Fiendsmith package is able to set up Appaloosa. We're gonna skip this combo because, like, I'm so sick of looking at Appaloosa combos. Can you ban Appaloosa in the OCG, please? How are you not seeing that card is so unreasonable? Anyways, this is a Fiendsmith variant of the deck. I mean, obviously, Fiendsmith makes a lot of sense in this deck. Especially because Engraver could also be used as a way to discard a card from your hand, right? Like, oh, they have one Engraver, one track. Sure. Pretty cool, pretty dope. Looking forward to the Orcust cards. Malice is still the same here. I guess the return of Dominus Impulse is worth noting. Of course, Dominus Impulse, same as in the TCG right now, is not seeing a whole lot of play, not even in decks that can play it, simply because it is considered to be not as good versus Ryziel. Which is the most powerful driving force in the TCG at the moment as well. So the card, obviously, in a world without Ryziel and more like Orcust and stuff like that is going to start seeing play again. So that's what Malice are doing. Other than that, it's a pretty standard Malice list. Nothing crazy here. And then we've still got the Blue Eyes deck, which is another one of those decks that I'm just incredibly happy about seeing play in the OCG right now, because it looks like such a... It looks like we're going back to normal Yu-Gi-Oh! Essentially, is what I've been saying over the last couple of weeks. With Ryziel and Malice, and then Orcust and Blue Eyes, it really feels like we're approaching normal Yu-Gi-Oh! Gameplay again. So Prime-Eyed Blue Eyes, with Orcust and Malice as the top contenders in the current OCG format, running 3 Nibiru's in the main deck has become a common trend. We went a step further and adding some more hand traps. Okay, Blue Eyes seems to be the deck that has the most non-engine space, even though they did go to 45 cards with this. Maybe also to just draw Blue Eyes less often. Most Prime-Eyed Blue Eyes decks chose to not run Called by the Grave, as the deck can play around Maxi and Molcharmies by going for the Drill Beam and Seals setup. The increase of Malice running Shifter in the main deck makes Called by the Grave a good counter tech and could also double as a disruption against Orcust. Yeah. Okay, so you're running Called by not because you're scared of Maxi and Charmies. You're running Called by because it's good against Shifter and Orcust. That makes sense. But yeah, this deck feels very mid-range to me. There is a key difference, because you guys are saying like, oh, this deck is running like 17 hand traps or whatever it is. Well, how many is it? 8 plus 18. It is running 18 hand traps in 45 cards. But I think there is a distinct difference between a deck like Snake Eyes having room for 18 hand traps, or something like this having room for 18 hand traps. The end board that this deck produces, I think, is a lot like weaker than what a Snake Eye deck used to do. And it's more comparable to, obviously it's stronger than it, but it's more comparable to something like Marincess or whatever. A more powerful version in 2025, of course, because the deck is like Marincess is not as powerful. It's not the bar, but it's more in line of what we were talking about, or at least the conclusion that I've reached in regards to one card combos and mid-range decks having a lot of room for non-engine. The conclusion that I reached is that we're probably not going to get rid of one card combos anytime soon. At least not, it'd be a slow process over the course of a bunch of formats and set releases where they change up the philosophy and card design. In the short term, one card combos are going to be a thing, but preferably they come at the cost of being not as powerful. Like a one card should not do what Snake Eye Ash does, or one card should do less than that. That's at least that's where I stand on it right now, and it looks like this deck and the Orcust deck are moving in that sort of direction. You know, that is more in line of what I'm hoping for one card combos to be like in the future. Even though they're still powerful, they still exist, but they're just less oppressive and less auto win, especially when we consider that we won't have Appaloosa in the TCG. So all things considered, looking cool here with the OCG metagame report. Actually, do we have any other mentions after the Blue Eyes? No. Okay. Conclusion: the OCG January limit regulations weakened Ryziel and took out Abyss Dweller, opening up the format for Orcust, Malice, and Blue Eyes to take the top spots. With Orcust and Malice as top contenders, many players are running Nibiru in the main deck and Lancia in the side deck against them. Fantastical Dragon Phantasme is also a good option in the side deck to help dig for hand traps, while also being able to attack over the opponent's Appaloosa. Name one bad format where people played Phantasme. That's right. That's right. You cannot. Impossible. When you play Phantasme, times are good. In case anyone of Road of the King is ever watching me react to their metagame report, if there's one thing I would love to see is to put a link under these, or just highlight them so I can click on them to get one example deck list for like where it's from. I know they have their sources way at the bottom, but it is pretty tedious to find the deck that you're looking for. If I'm looking for the, I'm very interested in the Ryziel Magistus Necros one, right? Like I'd have to go through all of these links at the bottom, right, to go and find it. Maybe I'm asking too much, but that'd be nice. Anyways, looking good over there.